I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. New appointments to the commission. Mr. Hollenbeck, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, I will report that we have had no new appointments submitted since our last meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Moving along, roll call and approval of the minutes. Request action of approval of the minutes with the roll call.
So moved. I will begin roll call. Kyle Allen. Oh, my computer froze. That is pretty good timing.
I hate when that happens.
All right. Yeah, it's back now. It's behaving. Dwayne Arndt.
I'm here.
Dwayne, okay, thank you. Jan Baps.
Aye.
Janet Beck. Jeff Benson. Jim Biggs. Kevin Brightsky.
Here.
Charlie Brown.
Here.
Bill Carroll.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Anthony Copeland. Joshleen Denham. Tom Dermody. Tom Dermody. John Derwinski. Dinah Dumbris. Denise Ebert. Bill Emerson.
Yes.
Robert Forster. Michael Griffin. Richard Hardaway.
Yes.
Tony Hendricks. Eric Hall. Jack Geralds.
Here.
Justin Keel.
Present.
Andrew Kiris.
Present.
Robert LeMay. Sue Lynch.
Here.
Sheila Matias. Tom McDermott. Lori Mercer.
I'm here.
Wendy Miss.
Present.
Edward Morales. Matt Murphy. Dwayne Perry.
Here.
David Peeler. Bob Paparad. Jim Pressel. Jerome Prince.
Present.
Mike Rosenbaum. Rick Rifa. Tom Schmidt.
Here.
Brian Snedkor.
I'm letting you know that.
Steve Spebar.
Here.
Greg Stinson.
Yes.
Gerald Sweats.
Here.
Sharon Zuido. Mary Tanis.
Here.
Jim Tunn.
Present.
George Topple.
Present.
John Yelkich. Has anybody joined that I did not, since I started roll call?
Jeff Benson.
I'm sorry, who?
Tom Dermody.
Great, thank you, Tom.
And Jeff Benson.
Jeff Benson. Great. Great. Anybody else?
This is Robert Dirks with the Federal Highway Administration.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if Denise Ebert is on the call also. She had trouble with her microphone, so I don't know if she's
Oh.
present.
Thank you, Ty. All right, so that leaves us with a quorum of 26. But on the executive board, we do have 1, 2, 6, 8. So we do have 8 on the executive board.
So do we have a quorum?
We do. We need 7 for the executive board.
We have a quorum of the executive board, so this can become an executive board meeting. We're one shy of being able to hold a full commission meeting. But fortunately, none of the items on this agenda require a full commission vote. So since we did not achieve quorum of the full commission, this becomes an executive board meeting, which means that all motions made and all votes can only be done by executive board members.
Okay, then we'll continue with the executive board session. We've had the roll call, and if there are no exceptions to the approval of the minutes, we will they will be approved. But first, are there any comments or any actions other than what's in the minutes as listed? Okay, there being none, the minutes are then approved. Okay, is there any public comment on the current agenda items? Hearing none, we'll continue with the report of the chair, and I'm going to combine this with the executive director's report. Essentially, one of the concerns we have is the committees. As of 2 days ago, we only had 17 of the 53 commissioners that had responded. And there was a message sent out on April 12th. We may have had more since then, but in order for us to update the committee assignments, we would like to have more people respond to that that message that was sent out second time, first on March 30th, second on April 12th, I believe. Ty, do you want to comment on that further?
Yeah, thanks, George. Yeah, thanks for those of you who did respond. We had 19 out of the 53 commissioners respond to that survey after 2 reminders. So please find that in your inbox, and we will send it out again. As George mentioned, it's not only for committees, and I'll say more about committees in just a moment, but it is also contains some demographic information that we need you to respond to for our federal reporting requirements. So we've combined it into one simple survey. It takes all of maybe a minute tops to take the survey. It's very, very short, and just need to go through it. So please find that and respond to that. And Candy will send out something again relatively soon with the same link. But it is very helpful for you to respond to that. Again, not just for committees, but there's also demographic information we need to collect. So appreciate you doing that.
Ty, I will comment that it does take very little time, and it was very user-friendly. So I would encourage everybody to join in on that.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate that. Good to hear. Mr. Chair, I've got a few other items if you want me to just keep on going. Or...
Yes, would you continue staff service awards and other items?
Yeah, thank you. I'll save the best for last, staff service awards for after I get through a couple other things. We have so the commissioner interest survey that was sent out, we just talked about. There are 2 other surveys out there, or one that will be out, another one that has been out that I want to draw attention to too. First of all, brownfields, which of course are a big issue throughout this entire region. I think you're aware from past meetings and all, we've received a grant with our Brownfield Coalition for assessment, brownfield assessments. And obviously the world changed with COVID. So we received that grant. We had some projects come forward, but there's still a lot more opportunity there for pursuing brownfield activities in your communities. And so we're going to be sending out a brownfield redevelopment capacity self-assessment survey. And believe me, we do not mean to inundate you with surveys. It's just there's a lot of activity going on right now, and it's very helpful to get that feedback. So we're going to send out a brownfield related survey. And in addition to the commissioner interest survey, if you did not do that yet, look for this as well. And this will help us to try to activate that program and be able to make the best use of it for the region and for the brownfields that I think there's hardly a community in this region that doesn't have some brownfield issue at state. You can contact Kathy Luther for more information. She's on this call right now, and you can talk to her for that, but be on the lookout for that survey when it comes. And then the third survey I want to mention is really just related to the coastal communities. So those of you who aren't a coastal community, you can not worry about this one, but there was a Shoreline Municipalities Needs Assessment Survey that was sent out last month. And we only received 2 responses from that. And if you did not receive that or need it sent again, please contact Kathy Luther. Kathy, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about that particular survey, or if that's enough said.
Yeah, that was actually from the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. They are compiling lists from all over the Great Lakes, but they were particularly concerned to get input from Indiana. So I appreciate anyone who can take the time to answer some of those questions.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Let me just cycle back real quickly, just a quick word on committees to sort of prime this pump, so to speak. We adopted the committee structure that we currently have in 2015. And so we've had well over 5 years to try out that new structure. And from multiple conversations that I've had with commissioners as well as staff, we really need to revise the structure. We've been tracking attendance very carefully and effectiveness, and just to make the best use of everybody's time, including staff's as well as commissioners' time. We really need to go through a modification of that committee structure and streamline it even further. We think there's a lot that can happen with fewer committees and happen more effectively. So just want to prime the pump for that. Again, the survey that you received that was in the past specifically asking what committees you want to serve on. Over the past 2 years, that survey was altered to ask what your interests are. And that was deliberate because that will help inform how we shape a new committee structure, as well as it's a good read for us on what are the things that you are interested in for your communities that we need to be thinking about allocating time and resources to, which just another plug of why that commissioner interest survey is important to us. But I did want to give a heads up that we'll be starting a process now that we're, Lord willing, moving out of the COVID situation relatively soon. We'll be looking at that in earnest to develop a new committee process. So just heads up on that. And now for the moment that everyone has been waiting for. We normally do staff service awards. This is to recognize milestones in NERC staff service. We normally do these as they occur at our full commission meetings. Obviously, COVID changed a lot, and it seemed a little, frankly, awkward and frankly weird to do those staff recognitions over Zoom. But given the situation, we just decided to go ahead and put the ones that we have missed over this past period on the agenda for today. So I've asked 3 particular staff people to be on this Zoom call today, and just want to give a quick recognition to each of them for their service. First up is Alan Hammond, and I'd love to somehow spotlight Alan on video, but I don't know how to do that unless Alan makes a joyful noise of some sort that would call his screen to pop up if you happen to be in speaker for Zoom. But Alan Hammond has served here for now over 15 years. He's our compliance manager. And those of you who have worked with Alan, who have transit in your communities, are already very familiar with how thorough and conscientious he is. Alan's job is basically to make sure that all those subrecipients that we have, sometime in NERC's past, we were asked to take on the Federal Transit Administration reporting requirements and recipient requirements on behalf of these 7 smaller transit operators who could not do that work on their own. So that's why we have the situation that we have. And Alan is an important part of making sure that we're meeting all those regulations and FTA requirements, and does a great job doing it. So That's Alan Hammond. Congratulations on 15 years. Again, I don't know how to call him up on here to have him show his face unless he yells or says something, but then I don't want to put him on the spot either. So I'm a little catch-22, but congratulations, Alan, wherever you are.
Well, thank you very much.
There you go.
And yes, I'm popping up here on the screen. And we are actually, it's a team effort. We actually have a lot of great people in the finance department, our CFO, our accountant, our procurement person, and our accounts payable. And we all have to work together diligently. And that's where the emphasis is. Because bottom line is, with our 7 subrecipients in Northwest Indiana, we never ever want to have the situation where any of them are put into the situation of being not in compliance with the federal regulations, and it really takes a team effort. So I am grateful that the past 15 years, actually it's plus now with COVID, and we actually, out of the 7 subrecipients, we have 5 new people in leadership with our subrecipients and 2 veterans. And it's really great to work with all of them, but with the newness, it is also an opportunity to expand compliance regulations, and also to really come alongside and teach them the requirements of FTA and the State Board of Accounts and NDOT and everybody that's involved. And it's really been a true pleasure. And I give them encouragement because of the fact that I was like, with the pandemic hitting in 2020, we can't count this year as a year for growth. We just have to count this as a year for survival. But 2021 is looking very good. And as Ty said, we are in the midst of federal reporting as we speak. And we will get through this, but it's truly been a pleasure serving NERC for the past 15 plus years, and thank you very much, Ty.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate all your service and your commitment. And I'm thinking of, as I talk about Joe Exel and Meredith Stillwell, I don't want them to feel nervous if they have to say something as eloquent as Alan just did. So be relieved of that pressure. But I do want to recognize both of you. So Joe Exel is celebrating a 10-year time period with NERC. Joe is our senior water resources planner. If you've received trees through the community tree program, you've worked with Joe. If you've been involved in any of the watershed planning work that Joe does, and everything related to stream quality and river quality in this region, which is, as you know, absolutely critical to the ecosystem that we have here. That's so unique to the country and to the world. Joe is a big part of that. And so Joe, I don't know if there's a way for you to say hello or to spotlight you in some way again. I really hate putting people on the pressure to say something when I didn't ask you to do that, but if you can somehow show yourself, that'd be great.
Yep, sorry, don't have my video active. I've got my laptop closed under my big monitor so my old eyes can see. But as always, it's a pleasure to serve the communities and, residents of Northwest Indiana. So always here to help. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate it. Joe also has, I think, probably the most killer beard in the office. So that's another way to easily recognize him when you see him next time. And then lastly, Meredith Stillwell, who is doing service here in helping to manage this whole Zoom meeting, which I greatly appreciate. Meredith is our office manager, is also celebrating 10 years at NERC. And she has kept the entire thing running. As you can imagine with your own communities, how difficult and challenging it has been during COVID to try to keep everybody safe and create an environment where everybody is feeling like when they do come into the office, they are protected, and as much as we can possibly do. She sprung into action and has kept this place running. And she is pretty much the one who has, while the rest of us have worked at home, she has pretty much kept everything physically in the office moving so that we didn't miss anything, even though almost all of us were working remotely. So, and she also takes on a lot of the HR, human resources responsibilities on top of that. So she's just been a huge part of keeping this office moving forward, and why we haven't missed a beat during this entire time. So Meredith, again, I'm feeling bad for putting people on the spot, but if there's a way for you to just say howdy, that'd be great.
Well, the role of Meredith is currently being played by the agenda on your screen, but I will I will stop sharing for just a second and start my video. Thank you, Ty, for those wonderful words. I did not do this solely by myself. I had lots of help, and I appreciate all the help, and I appreciate all the commissioners and the kindness I've been shown through these 10 years, and all the staff. I just thank you all.
Well, thank you very much. And thanks to all three of you again. I think a common theme here is that nobody really does any of this alone. And so appreciate how everybody's worked together to keep things going. But on these particular milestones, it's great to appreciate all three of you. So thank you.
Yeah, for all the commissioners, I'd like to thank all three of you for your fine service and many more years to come. God bless you.
Very good.
Here, 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 here.
Great. Thanks much, Mr. Chair. That is it. So.
All right, then moving right along, Mr. Bill Emerson, Environmental Management Policy Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to all the commissioners here. The Environmental Management Policy Committee met on April 1st, had a good meeting, a good turnout. We had a kind of an update on the regional greenhouse gas inventory project and again, I want to thank the commission for supporting that and approving that. And obviously staff at NERC. I think Alan mentioned how it's a year where we're just trying to keep things moving. We're not growing, but even in that year, we've taken on this big project, or NERC has taken on this big project. So I appreciate it. We had an update from Kathy Luther and Kathy Sipple. Things are moving along. I think we have 6 interns now working with the communities that are participating. A lot of these communities couldn't do this, I think, without this kind of collaborative effort. So it's really awesome, great thing, and really exactly, I think, what NERC should be doing. So I appreciate everyone's work on this in this challenging year. We then had a update from 2 communities who have kind of been leaders in this area, from Gary and Michigan City. So Mayor Prince, I wanted to thank you and your MS4 coordinator director, Brenda Scott Henry, the wonderful Brenda Scott Henry, for her kind of insight into how Gary's done things in this area. And it was a great meeting. We're gonna have our next meeting on July 1st, 9 a.m. Everyone's welcome to attend. It's really informative, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time.
Okay, are there any questions on for Mr. Emerson? Okay, next we will go into the consent agenda items, which will include one item from Finance and Personnel, that's Resolution 2105, then Technical Planning 2106, and then Public Comment Report and a TIP amendment. But we'll start with Mr. Kevin Brightsky on the technical, or no, correction, that'd be Greg Stinson on Finance and Personnel.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning to review the financial reports for March 2021 and the year-end final reports for the year ending December 2020. Also reviewed were bank reconciliations and claim registers for the month of March. There is one action item for consideration today. That is Resolution 21-05, which is an update of the United Planning Work Program for fiscal year 2021-2022. This resolution includes revised budget and activities that reflect the 2022 planning funds allocation to NERC and the federal planning emphasis areas that have been dictated. Kathy Luther will briefly present this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you actually gave the high points. I just wanted to
steal your thunder.
It's okay. I gave you good information. Just if any of the commissioners have ever wondered what the staff do all the time, this Unified Planning Work Program is our scope of work for all of our activities as a metropolitan planning organization and for all of our transit oversight activities. So it's largely what we do on a daily basis. It's a scope of work for our funds from FTA and Federal Highway. we have to do a 2-year program, but the second year is always an estimate. And so we have to go back for the second year, which happens to be the 2022 year starting this July, and revise the budget. This year we got $89,000 less. And also add language to make sure we're touching on the federal planning emphasis areas. You can actually find on page 12 of the UPWP amendment, kind of a crosswalk of what pages those planning emphasis areas refer to, if you're interested in that. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Luther and Mr. Stinson. Mr. Stinson, do you have any more?
I would just bring to the commission that the F&P recommends adoption of resolution 21-5 as part of the consent agenda. And the other note is simply that the next meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee is scheduled for 8 a.m. on May 20th. And that ends my report.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next item for approval under consent agenda is the Technical Planning Committee report by Mr. Kevin Brightsky.
The Technical Planning Committee met on Tuesday, April 6th, and as a result, we're suggesting or favorably recommending resolutions 2106 and 2110. These are two actions that will be presented to you by Scott Weber first and Charles Barkley. Following their presentations, of course, a single vote will be entertained by both TPC items, along with the previous Finance and Personnel Committee item that you just heard. So, Mr. Weber.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brightsky. Resolution 2106 has to do with the performance measures. So you might recall it's been more than a couple years now, but back on November 15th of 2018, this commission adopted resolution 18-20, which was adopting various performance measures for how our transportation system performs in the region. We had to adopt both 2-year and 4-year performance measures. Well, the Indiana Department of Transportation has an opportunity every 2 years to revise the 4-year targets for those performance measures. And it decided to revise 5 performance measures back in October, which then triggered a 180-day clock for us as the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission to decide whether or not we were going to agree with the state adjusted targets or set our own. It is staff's recommendation in resolution 2106 that we agree with the Indiana Department of Transportation's adjustments to the performance targets. So those are on page 14 of your agenda packets. And the Technical Planning Committee looked at these changes back on April 6th and recommended that resolution 2106 be adopted. Happy to answer any questions if there are any otherwise. We can briefly walk through these, but these are pretty technical. They just have to do with 5 particular performance measures: the interstate pavement condition, the National Highway System pavement condition, and the National Highway System bridge condition, as well as the truck travel time reliability index. And you can see the original text as well as the amended text as a result of resolution 2106.
Hearing no questions or comments, let's move on to Mr. Barkley, reflecting on resolution 2110.
Well, thank you, Kevin. My name is actually Brad Ski.
Sorry about that.
Barkley. And I cannot play basketball. I need to point out I cannot play basketball.
Round mound of rebound.
Just lower the hoop and maybe I could slam it. I'd like to, commissioners, I'd like to present resolution 21-10. But there's also a public comment report, which is on page 15, as is on there. There were no public comments that we received for amendment number 13. It started on March 9th and ended on April 8th. We did not receive any comments from the interagency consultation group, and we did receive approval from those participating on the ICG shortly after on March 8th, I believe, when we received approval by the IGC. Amendment number 13 can be found on pages 16 to 22 as is scrolling through. A brief synopsis of this amendment is mainly a formality. We did have a couple projects that LaPorte County and Lake County both added significant amount of funds to their projects. LaPorte County added it for design, and Lake County added it for right-of-way on a project. And then two other projects, Michigan City and Valparaiso, two other communities, Michigan City and Valparaiso, both eliminated projects. Again, a formality. We just want to show that that they do not want to continue moving forward. We could show that by not including them in the next tip, but like I said, we just wanted to let everybody know that they officially do not want this project. Whereas if we didn't include it, then there could be some confusion as why it wasn't included. So, and that is all for amendment number 13.
Any comments, questions for Mr. Bradsky? The other famous Charles? Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you for your motion.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bradsky. And Mr. Stinson and Kathy Luther. Moving right along, we're going to go to the consent agenda items. If there are no other comments, hearing none, this will include Finance and Personnel Committee Resolution number 21-05, Technical Planning Committee Resolution number 2106, State Performance Measures, the TIP number 13, the Public Comment Report, and then the Resolution 2110 for the TIP Amendment number 13. There is no further comment. May we continue with the roll call recommending approval?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Appreciate
Sorry, who was second?
Who was the second?
Mayor Bill, City Lake Station.
Thank you, Mayor Bill.
Well,
Take-
one moment. Since we have not reached quorum, only the executive board can make a motion in a second. My apologies for that.
Candy,
apologies as
Greg
well.
Stinson will second.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
I did make the motion.
Yes,
Jim
we got
Tunn made
that,
the
Jim
motion.
Tunn.
Yes, we got you, Jim. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other further comment? Hearing none, please continue with the roll call.
Okay, like I say, I'll be taking roll call of the executive board. Tom Dermody,
Present, yes.
Bill Emerson,
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
Yes.
Sheila Matias, Wendy Miss.
Votes yes.
Thank you. Jim Pressel, Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Jim Tunn,
Yes.
George Topo.
Yes.
And so all voting yes, and my apologies, in the beginning, I had said that there were 8 executive board members and I was incorrect. There are 9 and all 9 have voted yes.
Okay, we have unanimous approval for consent agenda items. So the consent agenda passes. Next item will be voted on separately under the technical, I believe these are all under technical planning. So Mr. Bradsky, would you please continue with the following items 9 through 1, and I guess Mr. Bradsky has the 9.6 on the coronavirus. So we have item.
That's correct,
Take it
sir.
away, Mr. Brzezinski, please.
Yeah, pages 25 to 38 on your handout will cover the next 4 TPC actions. Roll up your sleeve. We'll start with the first action on Resolution 2107, the air quality conformity determination for Northwest Indiana 2050, Amendment number 2, and the 2022-2026 TIP. Scott Weber will first provide a summary of the 30-day comment period for the amendment, then explain the action. The comment report starts on page 25 of your packet, followed by the resolution. The Technical Planning Committee recommends adoption of Resolution 2107. Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezinski. The public comment report that you'll find on page 25 of your agenda packets is about the 30-day public comment period that the air quality conformity determination report for amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan, as well as the 2022 to 2026 transportation improvement program, as well as amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan itself, all underwent a 30-day public comment period from March 9th to April 8th. During that 30-day public comment period, which was posted on our website and posted in a press release, we received no public comments. So this is a public comment report stating that as such. So that is all. There's the no action item regarding the public comment report. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Resolution 2107, which you will find on pages 26 to 27 of your agenda packets, which refers to a supplemental material that was posted on our website that is not in your agenda packets, but that refers to the air quality conformity determination itself for amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan, as well as the 2022 to 2026 transportation improvement program. Those 2 latter documents are later up for adoption in this meeting, but the air quality conformity determination report that resolution 21-07 pertains to is a federally required document before we as a commission can adopt the amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan or the 2022 to 2026 transportation improvement program, because the Environmental Protection Agency has designated Lake and Porter counties as non-attainment with respect to ozone, which means that we have the requirement of showing this air quality conformity determination. I should mention that we as NERC are involved in the Interagency Consultation Group, or the ICG, which is comprised of NERC as well as 5 other agencies: the Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration, the Indiana Department of Transportation, and the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And collectively, the Interagency Consultation Group has consulted virtually on this document and has approved and looked over it, as well as the Technical Planning Committee recommended this for adoption on April 6th. So with that, that is my introduction to resolution 21-07. I can entertain any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Before we go any further, were there any questions or comments about the public comment report? I think what I'd like to do is take the votes on these first 2 items one at a time, so that we can keep them fresh in our memory. So we have a motion to entertain a motion to approve 9.1, the public comment report. Or that's informational.
Yeah, just informational on that one.
That's informational. The next one would be approval for resolution 2107.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any further? We have a motion and a second, and who were they?
Greg Stinson made the motion.
In the second?
Me.
I'm sorry, who was second?
I said second. Somebody else said second. So you pick whichever.
Go ahead, Jim, you can have.
Thanks. I'll mark it on the wall.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments on the issue? Hearing none, we take the roll call
Yes.
for approval.
Okay, for 2107 air quality conformity, Tom Dermody.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Bill Emerson.
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
Yes.
Wendy Miss, Wendy Miss, Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Jim Tunn,
Yes.
George Topple.
Yes.
That would be 8 voting yes.
We have 8 voting yes, and is Wendy Miss on the call, or?
She was, let's see.
A motion passes 8-0. The next item would be 2108. Mr. Brightsky, would you continue with that, please?
Yes, sure. This resolution is for the congestion management process adherence of the NWI 2050 Amendment Number 2 and the 2022-2026 TIP. Scott Weber will also present this, and the resolution is found on page 28 of your packet. The Technical Planning Committee recommends adoption of Resolution 2108. Thank you. Mr. Weber?
Thank you, Mr. Brightsky. So resolution 21-08, which you'll find on pages 28 to 29 of your agenda packets, referring to a document on pages 30 to 33, is the MOVE NWI, which is our congestion management process that this commission adopted back in September of last year, that stipulates that no capacity adding project that can be added to any of our planning or programming documents using federal funds without first demonstrating adherence to the MOVE NWI congestion management process. So this resolution is a demonstration that there are really only 2 projects that came about as a result of Amendment Number 2 to NWI 2050 and the 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program that triggered a need to demonstrate adherence. And those 2 projects, as demonstrated in the document in your packet, are for the Town of St. John's Klein Avenue Gap Extension Project between 93rd Avenue and 101st Avenue, as well as Porter County's Willow Creek Road Extension phases 3 and 4 from State Road 130 to US 30. The segment I should mention of that project from 700 North to State Road 130 has already demonstrated adherence to a congestion management process in the past. So this resolution demonstrates the adherence, and the Technical Planning Committee reviewed this document back on April 6th and recommended it to this commission. Are there any questions?
All right, hearing no questions, are there any other comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion on this resolution number 21-08.
Motion to approve, Richard Hardaway.
We have a motion.
Second,
And we have a second from,
Mayor Lynch.
okay, thank you, Mayor. We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed with the roll call.
Yes, so 2108 congestion management compliance. Tom Dermody,
Yes.
Bill Emerson,
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
Yes.
Wendy Miss. Okay. Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Jim Tunn,
Yes.
George Topple.
Yes.
That concludes roll call with 8 voting yes.
Okay, we have 8 yes and 0 nays, so the motion carries.
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in just
Yes, sir.
real quick. I just thought it'd be helpful for folks to understand why we're not doing a consent agenda. These things actually build upon each other. And so we just wanted to make crystal clear that one was approved before the next in the sequence of these things, which is why they couldn't be grouped all together. But the positive side of this today is, since we do have an executive board, that's a lot less names Candy has to call for each one of these. So I just wanted to explain why we had to do it this way versus putting all of these on a consent agenda.
Appreciate that. I probably should have prefaced that in before we started.
Oh, no problem. I just thought people might like to know why.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification, Ty. I appreciate the clarification.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is, in this, let's see, we're 2107, 2108, we're to 2109, which is the 2050 Amendment number 2 on pages 34, 36. Mr. Bretsky, any comments?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. This is the third action we're requesting today. Scott Weber will provide a summary of the 30-day comment period for the amendment and explain the action. The comment report is found on page 25 of your packet, with resolution found on page 34. The Technical Planning Committee recommends adoption of resolution 2109. Mr. Weber?
Thank you, Mr. Britsky. So the public comment report about resolution 21-09 is the same public comment report that I've already reported on page 25. This public comment report was lumped together with the public comment report about the air quality conformity document, and it underwent the same 30-day period, and we received no comments on resolution 21-09 about the NWI 20 amendment number 2 either. I just wanted to mention that for clarity. We didn't duplicate the same public comment report twice in the agenda packet for that purpose, but it's the same public comment report. As far as resolution 21-09, which you can find on pages 34 to 35 of your agenda packets, that is about amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan itself. Now that this commission has already adopted the prerequisites for this document, the air quality conformity determination, as well as the MOVE NWI congestion management process. This resolution 21-09 is about the planning document itself, amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan. As you might recall, this commission adopted the NWI 2050 plan back in May of 2019, and this is only the second amendment to the plan. This particular amendment just changes 4 projects. In particular, it changes 2 projects and adds 2 additional projects. And those can be found on the table on page 36 of your agenda packets. The 2 projects that are altered as a result of this amendment are, 1, the Indiana Department of Transportation's US 41 added center turn lane from, as we originally had it, US 231 as the northern terminus to State Road 2 as the southern terminus. Well, this amendment clarifies that the southern terminus moves further north from State Road 2 to 135th Place, which is in the area around the town of Cedar Lake, as opposed to State Road 2, which is near the town of Lowell. So that just appears to have affected the project and made it shorter. However, in reality, the reason why we had it as a southern terminus of State Road 2 in the first place was just a clerical choice that NERC staff made for convenience sake. So it doesn't actually change any of the funding amounts or the intended scope of this project. It's just a clerical correction. The second change is the town of town of Munster's Main Street Extension Project, which is from Columbia Avenue as the eastern terminus to Burnham Avenue, which is actually in the village of Linwood in Illinois as the western terminus. That appears in the original NWI 2050 plan as being completed by 2030. Well, upon consulting with officials from the town of Munster, it is no longer realistic to expect that project to be completed by the year 2030. So this amendment pushes that year out to 2040. So those are the 2 projects that were changed as a result of amendment number 2. Now, the next 2 rows in this table are 2 additional projects as a result of the project solicitation process that we just underwent that we're adding to the plan. So the first project that we're adding, and these I've already mentioned in the MOVE NWI adherence before, but the town of St. John's Kleinert Avenue gap extension from 93rd Avenue to 101st Avenue, which has a federal cost of approximately $8.1 million. It should be constructed in the year 2028. So we have it completed by 2030. We use basically 5-year increments as our completed by date, just for convenience sake. And then the second project that's being added in that 4th row on the table is indeed the Porter County's Willow Creek Road Extension Project from State Road 30 to US 30. This is phases 3 and 4 in particular. The federal cost for the entire suite of projects is approximately $39.9 million in federal dollars, and that we have completed by 2040. So those are the 4 projects that are in amendment number 2 to the NWI 2050 plan. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions or comments for Scott? If not, Mr. Chairman, I think you're ready for a motion.
Yes, entertain a motion for Resolution 2109, Amendment number 2 to the 2050 plan.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Third.
We have a motion and a second. Do you have who made those motion in a second?
Was the second Mayor Lynch?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have them both.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve 2109. And is there any further comment or questions? Hearing none, can we proceed with the roll call for approval of resolution number 21-09?
Yes. Tom Dermody,
Yes.
Bill Emerson,
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
Yes.
Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Jim Tunn,
Yes.
George Topple.
Yes.
That concludes roll call with 8 voting yes.
We have an 8-0 decision and the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is resolution 21-11 requesting adoption on this resolution. Mr. Brightsky?
Mr. Chair, this is the final action from from transportation today. It's the adoption of the 2022-2026 Transportation Improvement Program. Charles Bradsky will first provide a summary of the 30-day comment period for the amendment, then explain the action. The comment report is found on page 15 of your packet, with resolution found on page 38. The Technical Planning Committee recommends adoption of resolution 2111. Mr. Bradsky.
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Brightsky. The public comment report, as Mr. Brightsky mentioned, is found on page 15. It's the same public comment report that I mentioned earlier. I also combined my 2 public comments reports on one document. We did not receive any public comments on the TIP amendment, or excuse me, the TIP adoption, the 2022 to 2026 TIP adoption. It was put out for public comment on March 8th and it ended on April 9th. Again, it was put out for public comment. We have submitted our TIP adoption to NDOT and to Federal Highway, and we are still awaiting their comments on our new 2022 to 2026 TIP. But we believe that there are not any major comments that would in any way make us redo our TIP, our new TIP. The TIP resolution is on page 37 and 38. We did not include that. If we did not include the TIP, it is over 100 pages long. So we didn't include it in the meeting packet, but we did include a link. So I hope everyone had a chance to look at our TIP. Mr. Brightsky.
Yes, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Bradsky? And thank you, Charles, for mentioning that that staff is putting stuff online with links. It's just a very large document. Mr. Topel, I think you're ready for a motion.
The motion, entertain a motion for adoption. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Second, Richard Hardaway.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further comments or questions on this particular issue? All right, we'll take the vote for adoption of resolution 21-11.
Okay, thank you. Tom Dermody,
Yes.
Bill Emerson,
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Sue Lynch,
yes,
Wendy Miss,
Votes yes.
thank you. Greg Stinson,
Yes.
Jim Tunn,
Yes.
George
Yes.
Topple.
Yes.
That is 9 voting yes.
Okay, we have the motion carries for adoption of resolution 21-11. Thank you very much, and thank you all for your patience on the individual votes there.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more thing. Now
All
for
right.
something completely different, some good news.
Oh,
Charles
excellent.
Bradsky will present an overview on the Commission on the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act, CARISA. This act was signed into law last December. Mr. Bradsky?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. May I make a presentation?
Yes, please do, Mr. Briggs.
Meredith?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay.
You should be able to share.
And, oh, wait a minute.
It's a good presentation.
And it is good news.
It is.
Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. The Highway Infrastructure Program Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act was at 2021 was enacted last December, as mentioned. In Northwest Indiana received $5.5 million. Now that must be obligated by the end of fiscal year 2024. These funds came to Northwest Indiana through NDOT. Group 1 received $5.3 million, and Group 2, which is LaPorte County, received $206,000. Some of the specifics about these funds: these are federal funds, so all federal guidelines must be followed. Any project that is eligible for Surface Transportation Block Grant is eligible for these funds. Those of you who are not aware, this is the broadest category of funding that we have for projects. These funds require a 20% local match. Now, we do have some projects or some programs that require only a 10% match. And these funds can be used for those, but they will always be a 20% match. These funds can be used in conjunction with other federal funds, CMAQ, Transportation Alternatives, and Highway Safety Improvement. And these funds can be used for any phase: design, right-of-way acquisition, or construction. But these funds cannot be used for new roads. So how to best allocate these funds? NERC staff met earlier this month and discussed how to best allocate these funds. And we came up with some broad guidelines. And we've basically said that we had a NOFA last fall, so we're going to use that. So we're going to use our list of projects to come up with possible candidates. We are going to move projects that are already in the system that's in the new tip or that were accepted just now. We're going to move those forward if possible. We're going to review the NOFA applications for any additional projects that we can include. And we do not have any intention of giving any category preference over another. Now, we have tiers in our NOFA. So for this whole process, we are not going to look at any of these tiers. As I've said to people, I don't care what kind of fruit you bring to the checkout, as long as you bring some fruit. If a project schedule slips, It is not our intention to create a legacy project. Now, looking at, we have 4 different pillars in choosing these additional projects. The first one is we're going to look at the score. We have the score from the NOFA. We want to make sure that we keep that score. We'll look at project readiness, equity among our communities. Basically, if one community was awarded 6 different projects in our last NOFA, we want to kind of share the wealth, so to speak. So we are looking to have other communities that may not have gotten anything in the last NOFA to give them a stake in this. And lastly, we want to have a solution to an issue. And most of our NOFA projects do that. So I don't think that this will be that big of a hurdle. We've also decided that T-Rock will make these decisions. So in a couple of weeks, on the 27th, and in a week and a half, actually, on April 27th, T-Rock will meet, and we will, front and center, we'll be looking at all the NOFA projects and what we can do to the chessboard. And T-Rocks will decide on which projects to accelerate or to fund. The recommendation will be made to TPC in which projects to amend into our new 2022 to 2026 TIP in July and August. And after the commission votes, a notice to proceed will be given to those projects and communities. LPA should be ready to go after the commission approves. So we don't want to lose any of these funds. So those of you who are asking for PE funds, for design funds, choosing a designer can take 4 to 6 months. So after T-Rock, we're allowing those communities to start the design process and choose a designer. And because our hope is once the commission approves it, then we can allow those communities to start working on their design. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email address. If anybody would like, I'm more than happy to share my telephone address, my telephone number, or you can just send me an email. And that is it.
Are there any questions or comments for Charles?
Yes, Charles, could you explain how that money got split between Group 1 and Group 2? It didn't quite look like a population split or anything like that, so I'm curious how that was done.
Those funds came to us through NDOT, and they basically send me an email telling me how much Group 1 would get and how much Group 2 would get. So there was I'm not sure on how they came up with those divisions.
In other words, it was not a decision we made from the staff standpoint. And that's one of the reasons the staff and I felt to forward it to the T-Rock, because they already deal with Group 1 and Group 2 funding and financing.
Any other questions for Mr. Bradsky? Okay, thank you, Charles. Fine presentation. Mr. Bradsky, any further?
Yes, sir. Well, of course, I strongly urge the communities, the municipalities to make sure their representatives are at T-Rock so they can represent, and that will be on the 27th. There will be other notices sent out. Also, the bike maps are available. We only have so much storage up in Portage, so when the communities can pick them up, the sooner the better, I guess is the best way of putting it. Please get a hold of staff to get access into the building, but make arrangements to pick up your allotment of the brand new bike maps. Thank you for everybody involved.
Okay.
Next meeting, a technical planning committee, will be Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 10 a.m. And more information about either are in the meeting will either be in person or a virtual meeting, depending on the circumstances of the day. And that will be shared no later than 1 week before the meeting date. So this concludes the report of Technical Planning Committee. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brzezinski. Next on the agenda, Ms. Dennery Kane, the Economic Development District Report. You're on mute, Dennery.
How's that? Better?
That's better.
All right. Hey, I was more worried about getting my video going again. Good morning and thank you. I wanted to report on the status of the Recovered Northwest Indiana Revolving Loan Fund. We are finalizing the loan application data that should be completed shortly. There is a contract in place with the Regional Development Company for them to perform the underwriting for the credit memo and also to run the credit reports on the applicants. There is an advertising flyer that's been developed for future distribution, and we're currently working on the website page that will be used for the application and submittals. All the loan committee appointments have been taken care of and are in place for each county loan committee. In the future, I'll probably be reaching out to you for assistance on getting the word out to your local business community once the program is launched, but we are getting closer. In regard to EDA grant assistance, we do have the Economic Development Administration Boot Camp that's scheduled for 11 a.m. on the 22nd of April. This will be a Zoom meeting. It will feature a presentation by our Economic Development Representative, James Winters. And the purpose is to help communities learn how to be more competitive in terms of the grants that are submitted to EDA. And we ask that you please go ahead and register for that, and also encourage your staff and perhaps even some of your consultants to register. Right now we have 58 people that are registered. We're continuing to provide feedback with James to any potential applicants for both public works and planning EDA grant applications. And certainly feel free to reach out to me if you have a project that you would like to discuss for some early input, and also so we can give you any feedback on SIDS compliance. And that completes my report.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. And moving on to INDOT, Matt Deitchley, do you have a report for us?
Morning, everybody. Just a few things I wanted to address. One thing is, if you are, well, actually, before I do that, if you hear any loud rumbling below me, please forgive that. There are people working on my kitchen, and it's the most inopportune time for my report, but we're going to press forward anyway. I did want to address bridge work this construction season for INDOT. So, you know, if you are going over one of the INDOT bridges this construction season, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be some work on it sometime this year. About 20% of our district bridges are going to be touched this year. This is all part of our initiative to, you know, just taking care of what we have and preventative maintenance on our bridges and our roads. So it's a significant year for us. We'll see the most projects of any type on that the district has ever had this year, but also from that bridge topic in fiscal year 22 next year. More record-setting bridge work with the highest dollar figure in bridge projects in district history. So significant work coming this year, next year, and also in the next 4 years on specifically bridges, but all along. So despite the pandemic, we're still taking care of preventative maintenance to make sure folks can travel on our roads safely. Two more things I wanted to address. One is Work Zone Awareness Week is actually coming up on April 26th to the 30th. Some of you may already have some things planned for your communities, but I wanted to make sure we got the word out about that. As, like I just said, at the start of the construction season, it's an important time to remind everybody to drive safely in work zones. Our workers, your workers, and also those drivers are at risk if they don't. So I really wanted to put that out there. INDOT's social media and our media relations team will be putting a lot of information out there. We're also doing a Wear Orange Day on April 28th. So I'm sure all of you have lots of orange attire. If you want to wear it on April 28th and join us, we'd love to have you. Lastly, I did want to bring up the Gary Mass Vaccination Clinic. I'm sure some of you are aware of this clinic on Roosevelt High School in Gary on 25th Avenue. Recently, we were made aware that it was a lower turnout than had been hoped. So NDOT has been helping with advertisement essentially. So we have put up some message boards, social media posts, and overhead digital messaging on I-94. So that clinic does have drive up. It's a drive up clinic, and there are walk-ins accepted. So I bring it up to this group. I just wanted to see if anyone has the opportunity to spread the word to their constituents. We'd love to have more folks taking advantage of that. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Matt, this is Tom Dermody, not to take away his thunder, but also as a part of FEMA, we have the LaPorte Clinic on the west side of Maple Lane Mall. Drive-ups, walk-ups, you don't have to pre-register as well. They're not checking identification. You only need your name, date of birth. So whether you're a US citizen or not living in our community, we're encouraging everybody for the Pfizer vaccination to go along with what they're doing in Gary as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. Other questions for me?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deitchley. Appreciate it. And the next item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business that we need to entertain?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Robert Dirks from the Federal Highway Administration has joined us, and he has something he wants to share. Robert, if you're still there.
Yes. Good morning. I'm Robert Dirks with the Federal Highway Administration, and I just wanted to mention to everybody that it's that time again for Federal Highway and the Federal Transit Administration to conduct a federal certification review of the planning processes in your MPO area. And so this is a review of not just the MPO, but of NDOT and all the planning partners in that planning area. And for those who are not familiar with the certification review process, it's required that Federal Highway Administration conduct a review every 4 years and to certify the planning processes in every MPO area that is 200,000 or greater. And so the last time the MPO area, the planning processes were certified was December of 17. And so by December of this year, we will need to certify again. And so I'm going to begin coordinating with Ty and his staff for that review. I'll begin that coordination soon, and but it'll essentially comprise of FTA and Federal Highway Administration doing a lot of reviews, at our office or virtually at this point. And then we will formulate some topics or questions that we have remaining. And then we will coordinate a day or two to schedule to meet with MPO and all the planning partners, and to go over those questions or just things that we want to talk about in some detail. And then and that's probably going to be probably late summer when that will be held, but we'll get that scheduled sooner than later so we can make sure we get that on the calendar. And then that will be followed up with a report, and then the MPO will have an opportunity to review a draft of that report, and then when it's finalized, we'll issue a certification letter. Again, last time it was that certification letter was dated like at the end of December of 17. And so hopefully by the end of December of this year, we'll have another certification letter. So that's the plan. I don't anticipate any problems with that. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Dirks.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other business?
Yes, this is Mary Tanis from Dyer. Our town council has 2 items for consideration. With the Westlake corridor really having a big effect on our community in the near future, we'd like to take a look at a roundabout at 213th in Sheffield. And we need help with Munster to put in a roundabout at Main Street and Sheffield as well. The second item is the bike trail. We've talked a lot about the bike trail into Illinois. We'd like to take the trail down to the south to Staker Road, through the Forest Preserve, and then into Illinois instead of going the northern route. And I think we all agree upon that. We're looking at a variety of plans. We'd like to have a pedestrian bridge across Route 30 somewhere in the future as well. So that's it from Dyer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanis. Is there any other business?
Bob Carnahan.
Okay, that's announcements or other business?
This is other business. I want to
Okay.
explain that Cedar Lake's biggest building permits ever issued was in 2006, and it went down to 30 in 2011. And last year we broke a record of 282 housing permits. For the first 2 months of this year, we've issued 53, so that should put us over 300 by the end of the year. We have 2 subdivisions going on US 41, and that center lane is going to be very beneficial for people turning. And I've tried to work with NDOT to get a stoplight at 129th and 41, and I had submitted our former chief of police the accident reports there, and I still understand we still don't have enough data to justify putting a stoplight there at 129th and US 41. So Cedar Lake is exploding, and someday I hope to have a light there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carnahan. Any other business? Okay, then moving on to announcements. So Mr. Carnahan.
Yes, we will be shortly opening our farmers market up that is open on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month. And she usually has 70 to plus vendors there. She was doing that last fall. So we anticipate having a good crowd there for that. And Summerfest is going to take place July 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with fireworks being on July 2nd and 3rd. And we're hoping to open up our community and everybody else in the state of Indiana.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carnahan. Are there any other announcements?
I have 2 things actually, if I could. One, just since the next meeting date is May 20th, just a heads up that as you know, we're very likely to not be able to hold virtual meetings at that point. We'll keep everybody posted, but May 20th, which is an executive board meeting, not a full commission meeting, will likely need to be in person, which is the first in-person, or likely to be the first in-person meeting we've had in quite a while. So just depending on what happens. And if that is the case, we will make sure that we are thinking about logistics and how to do that safely, and we'll keep you all apprised. But I just wanted to give a heads up to that with the May meeting. That's number one. And number two, if I could, I just wanted to accentuate, Mr. Brightsky already alluded to this, but the 2020, the hot off the presses trails maps have been distributed all across the region. And I've said this before at previous commission meetings, but during the coronavirus, these have been extremely popular as folks have tried to get outside and discover our trails. That's one of the silver lining things of this pandemic. So if you have not picked up your maps or need to somehow get them in your communities, please contact us. Mitch Barloga in particular would be happy to help orchestrate that. We've distributed them to libraries everywhere. And in fact, I took them to one of our community's libraries, and they were so anxious to get these. They actually had already stolen maps from other libraries to bring to their own library before I got there. So that's how popular these have been. So they are hot off the presses, new and updated, and we would love to get them in the hands of your residents as soon as possible.
Ty, where are they exactly located?
They're here in our office. We have boxes of them. So just contact Mitch and we can arrange to.
Are they allocated by population, or is they divided up? Or how
Mitch,
are they?
Mitch is on. Mitch, if you just want to go ahead and speak to it, despite your hat.
I'm a proud man today. Yes, they're not distributed by population. We didn't print as many as we have in the past, but we are expecting to put out a mobile app very shortly in the next couple of months as well, supplement the paper copy. But we will be happy to distribute, a box or two if representatives of the community will come to our office and arrange a pickup. Meredith Stillwell is at our office all the time, and she has an 8 to 11 or 8 to 1 p.m. window where she can actually distribute those maps. So if you contact Meredith ahead of time, there she is. She'll be happy to help you get your copies of the map.
No, we definitely want them. We just need to know where to go and what time. So.
And I'll get out another reminder as well, because we're going to start broadcasting this on our social media that these maps are available. And thankfully, all the libraries got a hold of them, but we're still trying to get them all to the communities.
Yeah, we'd like to get over there and get some. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other announcements? On behalf of everyone on the staff and the executive board, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and wish you all well, and hopefully spring will be around the corner here. So is there nothing else? Then I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation today. We appreciate it.